Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're tackling this absolutely fascinating paradox that honestly sits right at the core of human progress. I mean, have you ever noticed how we spend pretty much all our time trying to make our lives easier, right? Yet true growth, the kind that literally rewrites your DNA and changes who you are, that only happens when we try to do the absolute impossible. It's a wild contradiction. So today, we're unpacking this brilliant concept known as the sovereign protocol. And I promise you, by the time we wrap up here, the way you look at failure, friction, and your own personal limits, it's going to completely change. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this with a really powerful thought from the text. All your progress, growth, happiness depends upon doing the things that you cannot do. Now, that sounds totally counterintuitive, doesn't it? Like, why focus on the impossible? Well, the source material lays out this stark biological reality. Basically, when you just stay safely tucked inside your comfort zone, repeating things you can already do in your sleep, your brain effectively does just that. It goes to sleep. It shifts onto this low-energy, automated maintenance track. You're not building any new neural architecture, no new biological switches are flipping, and because of that, your baseline of capability, it just stays stubbornly flat. Simply put, if you want to grow, staying comfortable is literally the enemy. Which brings us to our first key concept, Section 1, the thermodynamics of the impossible loop. I absolutely love this framing because it stops treating human biology like this mystical, purely emotional thing, and instead looks at it like a machine. And just like any advanced piece of hardware, your body and mind run on supply and demand. If you want an upgrade, you have to create a clear demand for new code. And listen, that demand doesn't happen when you're chilling on the couch. It only kicks in when you force your system to face a task that sits way outside your current capacity. By creating that demand, you trigger what the protocol calls acute systemic distress. This is the intense friction of overloading your system, and it actually sets off a primal survival response. So, what does that look like in the real world? It's loading up a barbell with a weight your muscles have never felt before, and you get that physical shake. Or maybe it's diving into a really dense, confusing scientific paper that literally makes your head ache because you don't even know the vocabulary yet. Or walking into a massive, high-stakes negotiation that makes your heart pound. That distress, that exact feeling, that is the precise signal your brain is waiting for. And what's wild here is how incredibly literal this biological adaptation is. Let's quickly break down the energetic response. Step 1, your brain registers the friction of that impossible task as a direct threat to your survival. It panics, but, in a good way. Step 2, to survive this massive overload, it starts altering your neural wiring. It fires up these specific cells called oligodendrocytes. These guys rush in and wrap myelin around your active neural circuits, which dramatically speeds up the signal transmission in your brain. Then, step 3, on a purely physical level, it kicks off muscular and mitochondrial biogenesis. You are literally growing brand new power plants inside your cells to handle the load. So by attempting the impossible, you are quite literally forcing your biology to build the exact hardware needed to pull it off. It's real-time biological engineering. Okay, let's pivot sharply here into Section 2, the counterfeit confidence trap. Now we really need to contrast this harsh, kind of beautiful biological reality with the constant noise we get from modern society. This brilliant text establishes an uncompromising link between doing what you cannot do and earning genuine self-respect, real confidence, and true courage. You see, those psychological assets, they have to be earned through friction. They are the currency you get from that biological adaptation we just talked about. So think of it this way. On one hand, we have the sovereign protocol. This is earned adaptation through acute distress. But on the other side, we've got modern culture. And our culture is constantly trying to manufacture these cheap, counterfeit versions of self-respect. It's all empty affirmations, participation trophies, buying status symbols, staring in the mirror, repeating mantras, hoping we'll somehow feel confident. But here is the brutal truth. Your brain sees right through the fraud. Your nervous system knows exactly what's up, and it knows you didn't do the hard thing. You absolutely cannot trick your biology into feeling unearned confidence. So how do we actually apply this in our own lives? That brings us to Section 3, mapping your impossibility perimeter. If you want to use this as a practical, everyday tool, you have to make a massive psychological shift. You've got to stop being a passive operator who's terrified of failure and become an active engineer who is relentlessly hunting for the exact boundaries of their own incompetence. You aren't running from your limits anymore. You are mapping them. So I want you to genuinely ask yourself right now, where does your hesitation live? Seriously, take a ruthless look across the whole landscape of your life. Look at your physical training, check your career or your business, take a hard look at your cognitive stack. Like, what are you actually forcing yourself to learn? Even look at your relationships. You are hunting for the specific coordinates that make your stomach drop. What are the tasks or the hard conversations that you keep putting off until tomorrow? Now, as soon as you get close to that boundary, your brain is naturally going to try to protect you. It uses what the protocol brilliantly calls defensive excuse malware. You know exactly what this sounds like. It's those little voices saying, yeah, I'm not quite ready for that yet. Or, that's way beyond my current skill level. Or just straight up, that's impossible for someone with my background. Whenever you hear those specific excuses pop up, pay close attention. That's not your logic talking, that's the malware. And it is a massive flashing sign pointing to the exact zone of avoidance where your next major evolution is trapped. Moving right along to Section 4, microdosing the edge of failure. Okay, quick word of caution though. Finding your boundary does not mean you should go out and recklessly destroy yourself. Remember, we are engineering growth here, not looking to get hurt. You don't just throw yourself blindly into the abyss. Instead, the protocol suggests a really smart tactic called controlled boundary penetration. Let's look at the difference. On one hand, you have chaotic destruction. That's just throwing yourself into the deep end with zero structure, which, let's be honest, usually just leads to injury or total panic. On the other hand, you have controlled boundary penetration. This is where the magic happens. If a heavy weight feels impossible, you don't just unrack it and let it crush you, right? You load it up and do a heavily controlled negative rep just to prime your nervous system. Or, say you're diving into a super complex new subject. You don't sit down and try to write a thesis on day one. You just force yourself to sit in that intense, brain-aching discomfort of reading the raw source material for exactly 30 minutes. No phone, no distractions. You're systematically training your mind to tolerate that acute feeling of being completely out of your depth. And that leads into Section 5, the ancestral code transfer. I actually want to slow down for just a second here, because the source material takes a remarkably profound turn. This whole protocol, it's not just about hacking your own performance. It's about your lineage. It's about the absolute necessity of passing this mindset, this boundary-smashing operating conditioning, down to the next generation. It specifically talks about passing this to your kids. Listen to the absolute conviction in this idea. Imagine your kid is facing a tough challenge. They're frustrated and they yell, "I can't do it, it's too hard." Naturally, your immediate parent instinct is to jump in and rescue them. But don't. Do not solve the puzzle for them, and definitely don't tell them it's okay to just walk away. Instead, you look them right in the eye, totally calm, and you tell them, "Good. This is the exact moment you are rewriting your boundaries. If you could already do it easily, it wouldn't have the power to help you grow." You are literally teaching them to take a deep breath, stop running away, and dive headfirst into the friction. Which all builds up to this one core mantra. We do things we cannot do until they become things we do effortlessly. When you fully adopt this mindset, you completely decouple your emotions from the need to feel safe and comfortable. You stop worrying about the opinions of everybody else who's just hiding from their own distress. You actually stop caring about the discomfort itself, because you realize that very discomfort is the literal mechanism of your transformation. And finally, we arrive at Section 6, the sovereign vantage point. When you start applying this protocol day in and day out, you completely stop viewing your life as some defensive holding pattern. Instead, it becomes this relentless, unstoppable campaign of expanding your territory. You step completely out of that cozy little cage of your past limits, and you start scaling the most intimidating terrains you can find. So the crucial point here is this entirely new definition of a word we use all the time. Impossible is just a temporary, unverified diagnostic glitch in an otherwise unyielding machine. It is absolutely not a permanent barrier. It's literally just a system error message showing you exactly where you need to apply pressure maxed. Your mind and your body, they are that unyielding machine. When they spit out the error message, impossible, well, congratulations, you just found your target coordinates for tomorrow's work. So let's leave it right here with one final, totally crucial question for you to chew on. What impossible territory are you going to claim next? Seriously, take a look at your life today. Find the exact task that fires up your excuse malware. Find the heavy weight, the tough conversation, or the complex subject that makes your stomach drop, and go microdose that failure. Stop waiting around for some counterfeit confidence to magically appear. Get out there and engineer some impossible growth. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, guys. I really hope you found this as fascinating as I did. Now go find your boundaries and smash them.